Hey everyone. So while we're reading the things they carried, one thing we're going to focus on, which I wanted to introduce now, is his writing style. He's a very unique writer, and I want you guys to learn from the way he writes. And ultimately, you're going to be writing a creative piece inspired by the way he writes. So there's two main things we're going to look at today. One of them is syntax, the way he's using sentence structure. I'm going to push this slideshow out to you. So if you want to just listen and follow along, great. If you want to take any notes, you could do it on that slideshow in the notes section, though you'd have to make a copy for yourself, or you could take some notes into your notebook. Okay, that's totally up to you. All right, so look at the way as you're reading, O'Brien's going to use short sentences or even fragments sometimes, so one-word sentences that obviously can't stand alone. And usually this is used to emphasize that sentence or that word or idea. You're also going to see some really long sentences, and sometimes that is to mimic an emotion, to show that he's really excited or to show that he's really anxious. Or sometimes it's mimicking the action. Something is taking a long time, so the sentence will take a long time. So look at the way he's using both long and short. I also want to remind you of some punctuation elements to pay attention to. Semicolons, which are used, remember this is a semicolon, right? The period, comma, to connect ideas or show they have equal importance. M dashes, you're going to see him using a lot. This is probably a new term for a lot of you. It's this long dash, so not a hyphen, but it looks like two hyphens in its length. It's usually used to interrupt or add non-essential information. So here are some examples. By non-essential, it means I can take out the part in M dashes and the sentence still makes sense. Though I was hungry, I stayed focused and waited for lunch, right? So the M dash part adds something extra, the starving really. And M dashes are not usually used a lot. So when they are used, they really emphasize, they really stand out. Even visually, if you look at this, do you see the way the M dashes make the phrase stand out much more than a comma would? Okay. With M dashes, just punctuation wise, a comma or parentheses function the same as M dashes. Okay. So any of those punctuation marks would be correct in this situation. All right, look at the way O'Brien's going to use repetition. This is kind of a technical term, anaphora, which is when you repeat the beginning of a sentence over and over again. But any kind of repetition would be good to look for. And of course, that's going to emphasize. Descriptive details are another element. So this is separate from syntax, right? But you know a lot about descriptive details already. The use of figurative language like similes, metaphors, personification, even just looking at sensory details, or some teachers call that imagery. So I'm not going to read through all of these because I think you know them, but in this slideshow, you'll see that there's some examples. There's this great one from On the Rainy River that some of you referenced in our Google Meet discussion. The fear spreading inside me like weeds. Such a vivid description, right, of what fear feels like sometimes, taking over your body. Metaphors, this one you'll see in a future chapter. Personification, I think a lot of you know already, when a non-human thing is given human qualities. Then sensory details, anytime the writer's trying to appeal to multiple senses, not just visual, which sometimes we think of imagery as, but taste, touch, smell, hearing. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you in this slideshow that I'm going to share out to pick an example that you think exemplifies one of these things, something I just talked about with syntax or with descriptive details. And I want you to put it into a slide. You are welcome to do this collaboratively. If we were in class, I would have you do this with your table. So feel free to call up some people, maybe, 2 people max. Talk about it, craft the slide together, and put that into this slideshow. And you're also going to imitate the sentence. So I have an example on the next slide of what this looks like. I took one of O'Brien's sentences. You can't see this. Let's see if I escape. You'll be able to see my comment. This is where I'm analyzing what the sentence is doing and kind of talking about what it's an example of. And then I have my imitation. So I would love you guys today to add a slide. Again, you can do that collaboratively. I recommend it, and put all your names on it. And then we'll see what we all come up with. And we'll have some great examples of his writing style that we can use as we move forward. All right. Okay. Have a good day.